Hello, I'm Carl Spreedy's author of Decide Your Destiny.
And I'm Angela Talent, author of Poems from a Lost Soul and host of the Relatively Damaged podcast. And this is the destiny
Destiny
of
of
your
your
soul.
soul.
Almost. We almost got it.
Almost close and close every week.
Every week. So this week we are talking about who's your hero. Last week we talked about what happens if it is your parent that has a lost soul. And the homework actually was to, what the question was, what could you learn from someone you hate? And the practice
Or
was
despise.
meditating,
Yeah.
right? Meditating on
Yeah.
giving and receiving love to someone maybe you dislike, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Mhm. Hey, I got it.
Yeah.
Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. Done. Did you do your
You're
homework?
done. Yes. Did my homework. Ticked it off. I've got to hand
Ticked it
it in
off?
to the teacher though.
Yeah.
Whoever the
Well,
teacher is, maybe we have to be a teacher for each other.
yeah, right. Yeah, that was it was good practice, I think, to go back and do that again,
Yeah.
to remember, because sometimes it's like I think I get over it, but I was like, gosh, what could I go back to? And it actually brought up some things I need to work on,
Yeah.
or that I am working on. And there were
Yes.
some great things that I learned, about the person as I meditated, how creative they are, how loving they are, how giving
Yes.
they are. Um, I
Wow.
was I was also surprised at the amount of work that I needed to do that, like as I'm trying to give him, I almost didn't want to receive again, I was like, oh no, you stay over there.
Right. Like, because you don't want to open those, you don't want to open a door sometimes that
Mhm.
can let back in pain, I guess, or um, challenge. You kind of shut the door for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that, yeah, it's for a reason, and even cracking it open just a little bit can um, trigger some stuff, which is fantastic, right? Because we think we get over these things sometimes, and then we go back, and it's like, "Whoa, wait, there's more there."
There's always more, isn't there? There's
Did
always
you
more
did
work
you
to be
learn
done.
that in your homework? Did you learn that?
Yeah. So I think, um, I mean, so like for me, it could be the reason I guess I used the word hate was because you've got such strong feelings of that person. You've got such like build up and aggression, and then you're not realizing like I guess they say hate is like a form of love.
Yes.
You've got this kind of connection. You've got this bond, and you see this done in movies so well. Like J.K. Rowling, the series of books, the Harry Potter, the movies that came out of that, the the kind of connection of like Voldemort, and hope I'm not spoiling anything for anyone, but Voldemort and Harry Potter, and kind of like that sort of that connection that was struck um, because of what happened to his parents, and like I mean, Lord of the Rings like plays on this, like that kind of the connection. Um, like if you've got that ring and things like that. So I think it's an interesting, um, universal law of that connection. That if we have hate towards someone, or if we have aggression towards someone, whatever, it kind of binds us. And if you think of
Yeah.
that in a spiritual sense, and our soul developing and moving beyond this plane, and or how it's going to be greater beyond this plane, if we've got all these ties that we've created of people that we hate and despise on this planet, and we think, oh well, once I'm dead, it's all gone. It's like I feel like you've kind of sewn in those contracts, and so you got to be very careful, or be very aware of that. And so by asking the questions, what can I learn from this person, you change the relationship with that person that you despise, from a
Yeah.
relationship of hate, and now I've got a tie and I've got a bond, and I'm shackled to you, to let me observe you, kind of like your soul. Let me observe. My grandmother and her brother both had surgeries, and they told the doctors when they came out, when they came to consciousness, said, "Oh, I know what you're doing there." And they knew like medical terms. They knew like they knew everything that the doctors were doing because their soul had gone above, to the roof and was watching over their own body being operated on. So, this might be a bit a bit hot out the gates for a lot of listeners, maybe not, but I think it's that's what that question does, is it allows you to come out of that relationship with that person, that hate, that despise, and remove yourself and just kind of like an eagle, like look over the whole environment and go, okay, what can I learn? What can be learned? And then you're kind of
Mhm.
shackles. I mean, that's how I
Right.
take
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's just getting recognizing where there's a stalling out point, right? Like,
it. Yeah.
"Oh, oh, okay. I'm stalling here. I gotta work on that."
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic because, I mean, like I said last week, I would I could not hate someone I've never loved. It just doesn't really work out that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yes.
usually if it's someone that let's say this, if I haven't loved them before and right out the gate I hate them, it's because they're triggering or they're showing me all the things I don't like in
Mm,
myself,
yeah.
usually.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what a reaction does. Like when you react, if you react out of character, and if someone calls you out on your crap, like you react out of character, it's usually because, hey, there's something that you're suppressing, something that you've got to handle, but you're not handling it, and that person's just kind of like poking that little bear.
And they don't even know it.
No,
That's the interesting part, right? They have no clue.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Which
I
brings
love that.
us to this week's topic, which is who is your hero? And that's such a huge question.
Yeah, I think so. So, and for some of the listeners who come in here, you know, joining us for episode 4, what we're doing is we're going through the book I wrote, 22 chapters, and kind of in each chapter I focused on a certain topic. So in chapter 4, I wrote about heroes, and then it was about like you becoming your own hero, and part of that you're working out, okay, who have been the heroes in your life, and not just the heroes on screen with the spandex. It's the heroes who have shown up for you in your life, the mentors. What are the character traits, and really you know describing that. And then I spoke about Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. These movies and stories follow the hero's archetype, the hero's journey, a hero with 1,000 faces, the book, the famous book. So in the book that I wrote, in chapter 4, I go and the exercise at the end of that chapter is to write your hero's journey, to create it from your life. So that's the topic. And I guess who's your hero, or talking about a hero, people kind of I guess they don't think of themselves in that way, but you can be a hero.
Yeah.
Don't know if I've got it.
We've got a
So,
Facebook user that put
sorry.
a note.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got one hero. I generally admire different qualities in different people.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the whole point of it. Of the I guess what I was talking about was kind of what are those qualities, those character traits? Because I love this quote: "What you see in me, you cannot see in me unless it's in you."
Yeah.
And that's the point of it. It's like, okay, what you see in your hero, you cannot see in your hero unless it's not in you. It might not be out on the front in you. It might be something that you're still stirring, but you can't see it unless it's part of you. And that's the beautiful bond and the connection of all of us on this planet as spiritual beings. No matter what conflicts, what's going on around the world, what differences, how polarized we are made to be, or how polarized we are to be. Um, at the end of the day, it's like we can't see love and compassion and all these different things if it's not things that are within us already. So that's the beautiful thing about focusing your attention. And I spoke about the eagle earlier. The eagle gets up really, really high, and for 5 miles can see its target and see where it wants to go. and it has that clear vision, that strong vision. And so if you're focusing on the qualities of your hero that really are qualities that you want to emulate, or qualities that you find admirable, then you will start to kind of bring that into your life. And the more you focus on it, the more you can bring it into your life. And it's kind of like, something to get serious about, not just something to laugh about, in terms of like, I couldn't be a hero, ha ha ha. It's like, hey, we need everybody to be a hero. We need everyone to step up. Imagine if the people in your life that you needed at certain times didn't step up when they stepped up. Like it's like we need heroes in our life.
Yeah.
But what do you take away from from our topic?
Well, I love that chapter, first of all, and second of all, I did not put together how close together it came with my literary prose, or it's called Destiny of Souls, actually, and we released it, so it's on Spotify, Apple. It should be out everywhere this week.
Awesome.
But
Well done.
it talks, yeah, thank you. My friend Sean put the music behind it. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, you were. Yep.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But it talks about finding like that teacher, and who is that, and what happened. And I talk about like what happened on the journey and what did I notice, things like that. But I think for me, what was really beautiful is recognizing that for me, we are all everything, good and bad, right and wrong, all of that. It is inside of me. All of that I can go to, if we're going to look at it from a binary perspective, right? Then I could be good or I could be bad. But, in one situation, what's bad might be good in another situation. And what's good in another situation might turn out to be an absolutely wrong choice, and just not work out for that situation. But
Well, it's all perception,
at the
isn't
end,
it?
yeah, I jokingly say that. Well, I don't know if it's jokingly, but recently I came up with this idea. Oh, Mom is saying that the Destiny of Souls is beautiful. That's what she's talking about.
Hey, Mom. I've heard the one that you shared with me behind the scenes, but so you elaborated on it, because
Right. So we used same music, but we put my voice.
Okay, beautiful.
So it's beautiful. Yeah. So we finally released it. It was something I had to push the button on this end.
Yep. Yes.
He couldn't push the button, and I don't know why it took me a couple weeks, but it did.
Hey,
And,
you're doing it.
Yeah, but what in noticing the teacher, when we're talking about the hero and noticing the teacher, this teacher was loving. They were showing full acceptance of infinite beauty and love. There was peace, connection, and light, embodying perfection because they were perfection just as they were. And so this is what I'm describing as my teacher. And towards the very end, they turn and I see it was me, always. And the people that were following me, it was you, always. And then it was like noticing that you're a part of me and I'm a part of you, and we are part of the earth, the air, the fire, the water, the ether, never any more and never any less. Like all pure love. The like is not in there, but like what happens when I can look at everyone else and see all these great qualities and recognize that we're all love. I love when Dr. Fred Blum, one of my friends, he taught me about he asked me a question. I think it was to the effect of, what if when you're looking in someone else, you're seeing yourself? And so I did an experiment and I walked around imagining, what if that person is me? And I finished my experiment and then I went to the store and then I got judgy. I got super judgy. And I'll get to the comment in a minute. We have a comment behind the scenes, guys. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, but that's me. And it totally shifted my perspective. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty deep.
Yeah.
For me, it was pretty deep to go, oh,
Profound. Yeah.
yeah, it was profound. Okay, let's see what this comment is. A nice long comment.
Oh, nice.
I've never considered myself brave, which is one of the attributes I admire most. I attached physical resistance to bravery, but now realize the willingness to talk about deep seated beliefs is bravery and essentially self integrity on display. And then it says musician. Let's see if there's anything else on this end that I can't see on there. Hold on.
Musicians can be
Musicians
brave.
can be. Oh, you got it.
Musicians can be brave as they give to the world their most personal stories. Just my 2 cents worth. Mate, that's more than 2
Yeah,
cents. Appreciate it.
I think that's worth. That's priceless. It's not
As
just
we
2
say in
cents.
Australia, mate. Just realised that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think it.
I love that.
Yeah, music is something that touches the soul, and I don't think for me. It's like poetry. It goes to
Well,
a
it's like
place that
all art, isn't
just
it?
words can't. Yeah, that's
You're
true.
giving of yourself. You're bearing of yourself. My partner, she had an exhibition a couple of weeks ago, and like I've seen her working on her paintings over time, and and I looked over every so often, and then she got to the point of exhibition, and she's got so many pieces, and I'm looking at these pieces in a different way, even though they've been around me the whole time. Now it's in a different environment, it's in an exhibition. I'm looking at them, and I just like turned to her and said, like, wow, like this is parts of you. Like you've literally put parts of your spiritual being, like you as an entity, into this artwork. And she was like, I got it because I could see it there. And it was just, it's not that just the time and the materials and everything. It's like who you are inside. And I think that's the great thing about art is like you're figuring all that out. You're adding layers and layers. And whether that's art, painting, or musician, or for yourself and like me writing, like whatever art form it is, it's you're putting some of yourself out there into the world, and that can be daunting. That can be bring up a lot of things. Like you're
Well,
talking about this
yeah.
earlier.
Well, and that's a hero in my book, and that's a courageous hero in my book. On the introduction to my podcast, it says something to the effect of, "My hero is you, the one who faces insurmountable odds to come out on the other side whole. And it kind of goes on, and it says, "You're my hero because you help me be me, and I'm more okay with just being me than I was 2 years ago when the podcast started. I think I was afraid to be brave, and even though it took a lot of courage to start that podcast.
Well, that's one of the beautiful things of I mean, there's like with everything, it's a two-edged sword. Like with the internet, one thing it can be, technological freedom, and another side it could be technological enslavement. It could be, like you hear about Elon Musk doing open source. Like for his patents. So like the internet can be open source communication, freedom of speech and thought and expression, and it can be that, or it can be, like censorship, or like some parts of the world can't get information on other parts of the world. I think I spoke about this before. There was this game. Can't remember the exact game, but they put in the Citadel, in the online game universe, the library information about the West, because in their country they were blocked from seeing any information about the West, and so people were learning about, maybe these countries that I've been told my whole life are so terrible and to hate, and we might go to war with, aren't as bad as I've been censored to believe. And and so it's kind of that two-edged sword of the internet. But one thing I do like about it is it's giving more people platforms to speak, and I think it's really important that we respect that. in the last few years, I think that's become such a topic. And I think it's just giving people the ability to speak, and share and communicate. And for me, like when I was a kid, like talking about the double-edged sword, I had an old Nokia phone, had snakes on it, it had like, I think I just got Facebook, but I didn't know what the hell it was, and so I wasn't really exposed to it. But so if I was with my friends and if I said something stupid or maybe something unintelligent or something limited, or if one of my friends did something stupid or whatever, like it was that moment, like, oh, okay, I learned from it, or I said something ignorant, or they said something ignorant. Oh, like we can learn from it, we can grow and learn. Where nowadays it's like you've got pitchforks, ready to cancel, ready to just attack, like online, these keyboard warriors. And it must be so, like I think of the kids, like you're a kid, you'll say something dumb, you might say something stupid, you might say something that you don't understand. You might be raised by an uncle or someone or whatever, and maybe you said something racist or sexist, or I don't know, like you said something stupid in that moment. But imagine now, like you're filmed and then you're forever tainted with that moment of stupidity. And I think this is where like common sense or human compassion needs to come into play and say, oh, instead of canceling the person and basically cutting off all their ties, which is you can look at it as a form of killing someone, is like killing off opportunities for them to grow. How the hell are they supposed to live? Like, so it's basically you're visually killing that person. And instead of doing that, why not have compassion or communicate or pull the person aside and say, hey mate, let's just have a chat. Do you see how what you said there was kind of this or kind of that, or maybe it could be misinterpreted? And I think that's what I love about conversation compared to bite-sized segments of clickbait. I think the podcast is so powerful.
Well, and I think too that sometimes we can get into I'm right and you're wrong. Like there's something to that, and like I might voice a belief that says, I don't know, whatever so you would consider stupid, since we're using the word stupid. And you might call me up and be like, hey, you might want to think about that. And I'll be like, well, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
And I think too, like allowing room for a human to be human is great, because see, the thing is,
that's powerful.
I would rather I would rather someone be able to change their mind
Can you
later.
say that again? I love that. Allowing room for humans
a
to be
human to be human, or something like that.
Yeah.
Allowing me to be human.
Room.
Yeah, just everyone to be human, because I'm going to have a belief today that I hope someone challenges my beliefs, right? In a respectful, loving way, so that I can really better understand, especially if they think my belief is wrong. But if they come at me and tell me, "Oh, you're wrong," that's my hero. That's not for me. If we're talking about heroes, that's not necessarily my hero. Now, I still am the type of person that will go and think about it and try and figure it out. But a lot of times, especially initially, is I'm going to push back on if someone comes right at me, you're wrong, you need to believe this, you need to believe this, you need to believe this, instead of trying to understand how I came to that conclusion, and then maybe showing me or explaining to me where they think I may not have thought through all of it. Or, I love using street epistemology, which is asking questions to see if someone's really thought through their belief, because sometimes there's going to be a hole in a belief, and that hole is just going to have to be there. At least for me, I'm not going to, sometimes I will know that hole is there. Like some people would say God doesn't exist, right? And I will know there's really not much evidence that says God exists, and I still choose to believe that God exists, right? So it allows me to be okay with the fact that there might be a hole there, and that's okay. I still believe, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And if you if you've got it comes back to your vision, So if you've got, if you say, hey, you know, dolphins can communicate at frequencies that we can't understand, or if or dogs can see, or like other animals can see different colors and arrays that we just can't even understand. Like someone says, no, I don't believe that. Where's the fact? Put it on a paper for me. And you go, well, like you can say, well, that like my belief or my understanding is not like to be, conform to what needs to be for you. Like it's like you're not
Yeah.
the verification. You're not the two-step
Yeah.
verification for me to have this strong faith and belief. But talking about heroes, like I think what you're discussing, I mean, I've noticed a lot is so keyboard warriors and headline heroes are not heroes to me. Like, so people that are just going off a headline and or just seeming all tough behind a keyboard is not heroic. Heroic is oftentimes doing the harder thing, or the more the more challenging thing, or the thing that's uncomfortable for the right cause. And so a lot of times, when you share your belief, and I love that comment, by the way, by your mom. I mean, that's the
Mom says, I love listening to your discussions. They make me think.
I love that. And that, thank
I
you,
think,
Becky.
yeah, I think they make us think too. It's fantastic.
And that's the open form conversation. That's the whole, like, that's the essence of it. Like, if you want to be a hero, if you want to develop, like, you need to learn, and that's personal growth and everything. And just one thing I'll say, Earl Nightingale, the strangest fact on earth or something. So it's like a 30-minute thing, and he talks about, like how successful think how. And one of the things he talks about was conformity. And he was saying how the reason why most people don't have what they want is blindfolded conformity. And you look at any of the major atrocities of the planet, and where people did terrible things, and it's just blindfolded conformity. They just went along with it,
Yeah,
and then
that's
the
that is a
discrimination
hot
became okay,
button.
and all these things. Yeah.
That is a hot button for me. I'm like, yes, the shocking experiment with Stanley Milgram, the Stanford Prison Experiment. Those are two movies actually that I showed my youngest daughter, I think junior high, for that very reason, because so many times people are afraid to speak up and step out, to say, especially when they find something different, and it happens in science too all the time, where one scientist will come out and be like, I just found this out, and because it doesn't fit within the normal not standards, I don't think that's the right word, but what people are believing at that time, and then it kind of gets lost in the shuffle and put under the table until there gets to be more and more evidence. So the same thing happens, which actually also happens in our brains too, right? Like, we have to come around now. But this reminds me also, now I think I can tie this together. We'll see how I do.
That's the artistry.
Yeah, right. There was an experiment. I think it was with cats. I'm not sure. It may have been with something else, but where they showed them only vertical or horizontal lines. So somehow they removed any other line of the opposite line from their experience of life. And when they came out of this enclosure that they were in, they literally could not recognize the line that they did not have any experience with. And so I think that's really interesting. And I love thinking about that, mostly because, what am I not seeing? What is it that I don't know? And maybe can I not see it because I haven't been exposed enough to see it? Because I mean, there are, if we think just about light, there's so many spectrums of light that we cannot even see.
Yeah.
Even the We can't see X-rays, we can't see Wi-Fi, we can't see Bluetooth, we can't see all of these things. That it just is amazing to me. So we've got another comment here.
Well, that's a powerful comment.
Let's see. I know, I love this. Okay, I'm going to read the first part. Will you catch the second part for me, Kyle?
Sure.
Because it ends at, okay. So, in times of great conflict, as we are currently in globally, compassion and understanding are more important than ever. They may be the only things which bring peace and survival of our species. This is my fact. And the greatest poets, philosophers, and
leaders of our times have spoken of such. It never loses relevance for me. You are both doing important work in this regard. Thank you. Love that comment. Yeah. And that's creating the space, creating the platform. That's a big part of it. One thing I wanted to share, and I hope I didn't jump in.
No, go for it. I'm gonna do my poem after.
Beautiful. All right, guys, we've got something to look forward to here. I've been given a VIP viewing of the poem, and it's epic. But one of the big things about being a hero, and what you were talking about, I guess what resonated with me there, and obviously the comment as well, is ethics. Ethics is so important. Like, it's something we don't talk about. Like, I mean, I don't hear it mentioned in any media form enough. Your ethics. What's your ethical obligation? What's your ethical dedication? You as a spiritual being, you as going to playing this physical game for the certain amount of time. What are your ethical obligations in the day? Not what are your, oh my God, I've got so much work to do. What I really want to be doing is watching the latest Netflix. What's your ethics? Where's your ethics? How are they aligned? And part of being a hero is ethical. It's such a core aspect of being a hero, becoming your own hero, being a hero for others. You can imagine if there's that quote like, they say not to meet your heroes, because you might meet someone who's your hero. And then what happens? You see them doing something ethical or immoral or not true to character of the character that you developed in your mind. And then you go, well, that burns. And so there was this book that I was reading, and it talks about this, and you're talking about scientists. The scientist created this like health product and this company. And he was basically just trying to get, push back degenerative disease as much as possible. And he was, anyway, so he developed it, and then there was like a new CEO of the company, and, over time, and the new CEO came in, and they had a batch of like their products going through, and they found microbes in a batch, because they test for everything. And then even though the microbes were such a like small aspect, and they wouldn't actually have any effect on the health of people receiving the products, they went, one of our core, they got 4 core things. One of their core 4 things was ethics. And they said, we're going to, dump the entire production, like the entire, it cost, I think, $2 million to the company to dump all that produce. But they said, our ethical obligation, our ethical commitment is to have, like pharmaceutical grade cleanliness of their products for their health products that they've got. And so I just like that story just stuck with me, because it was like no cost. It's kind of saying, in a way, no cost is too high for ethics,
Yeah.
And ethical obligation.
Yeah, I think too that, to remember, like what you were saying, is we might meet that hero and they may not be what we think, or they may, depending on what we've created in our own minds. And I think that's really important to remember, because it is so hard to stay on all the time. We are all human, and if we expect ourselves to get to have the full human experience, or think we're, which is the full spectrum of emotions, all of that, it's about making mistakes, it's about all of those things, then why would it doesn't make sense to take that away from someone else. So in the poem that I wrote, it is
I'm excited.
You are today. You are. You are. Is so it goes. I think I'm calling the title is hero, but I'm not sure. So my hero is you. You who gets up each day to face the unknown. You who, when it seems like life has beaten you down, finds a way forward. And even when you don't feel like a hero, you are my hero because you keep trying. And for me, it's remembering that every day, every one of us gets up and they keep trying. I think over the last week, one of my daughters said something to me and she said, "What do you think I'm never going to change?" And I'm like, "Well, honey, that's impossible." And she looked at
Yeah.
me. I said, "You're alive. It's absolutely impossible. You will change. You will change. You will not stay the same." And it it just stopped her in her tracks because she was ready to just get really angry. But in that moment, it just made so much sense to point to, "You're going to change. I want you to change. I want you to be you. And I can't decide who that's going to be.
Mm.
You have to decide who that's going to be."
Yeah, I love
Um,
that. You got to be the master of your own destiny. That's what a hero is.
well, yeah, and allows other people the room, I think, to be the master of their own destinies, to
Yeah.
make their own mistakes, to give them the room to fail if they need to, and not decide that, because I used to decide or thought I knew what was right for other people, especially my kids. I mean, that's actually a really normal behavior. And I
Yes.
came to realize it's a very normal behavior.
Yeah.
It's not true. It is the furthest thing from the truth to know the best thing I can do is love them and support them in their choices, even when their choices aren't what I think they should be, especially when their choices aren't what I think they should be. Because, I think it's in Al-Anon, a 12-step program. They usually talk about, um, you don't want to take away the alcoholic's last beer, or you don't want to pour it down the sink, or you don't want to, how do you know if it was going to be their last or not? And in some ways, maybe some of those
Mm,
people are my heroes because they know something's wrong and they're trying to fix it. They just don't know how.
mm,
Like maybe they haven't
mm.
found their way back to their heart or whatever it is. Um, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't have the answers, but I know we have a couple of comments, which I should probably put up here. Our Facebook
Yes.
user says, personal integrity cannot be bought. So true.
Yeah.
So true.
The
And
comments coming
then,
in thick and fast.
right, yeah. And then the film Gladiator is a very good example of this. It's a fantastic movie. Totally agree. And then our last comment here, that's a lovely way to speak to your child. It's funny how truth is so powerful. It cuts right through everything. It can stop people in their tracks. The reality of it is that comment stopped me too. It's like it popped into my mind. I mean, I feel like that was a God given or given from the universe thought of, but that's impossible. Like, I think I even looked at it like that. Like, but you have to because you're alive. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And you're changing. I mean, you're like, how many? I think it's a crazy number amount of your cells die every day and that are rebirthed, and like your skin, like everything's changing, and
yeah.
you're either going one or two ways. I mean, that's the simple truth of it. And once you get into that, once you raise awareness to that, I think and it's not saying like, oh my God, I had a nap, I'm going backwards. It's like, well, maybe you needed to revitalize your energy to kind of, go forward. So sometimes you have to do those two steps back, 10 steps forward, like, so,
Yeah.
but realizing that, whether you want to change or not, you're going to change, and I think trying to
I like
halt
that.
change.
Whether you want to change or not, you're going to change. I love that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so true.
And it's like, and the more you try and halt change or block something, or I think another great one is like procrastinate, or kind of, you realize oh, wait a minute, what I've really done is put the car into reverse and I'm kind of heading backwards. Like you realize that, oh, just because I push it to the side or block it, or, like, and we're talking about integrity, personal integrity, those sorts of things, and ethics. If you just sweep, and the biggest thing I was discussing was kind of like if you're sweeping things under the rug, humans can make mistakes, all those sorts of things, but if you're sweeping things under the rug and it's wrong, then you've like, in terms of your soul, in terms of your heart, in terms of your
Mm.
spirit, you've gone a football field backwards. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that to make people feel terrible about themselves, but just be aware of what really goes against your moral, like harming someone. You might in the moment of anger, but realize, just have a moment of going, wait a minute, if I say something hurtful, if I do something hurtful, whatever, it's going to set me back. It's going to set my soul back. My soul's
Yeah.
evolution is going to be, it's going to be degenerative. And I think a lot of today, we look at the world and our society and how far we've come in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of things that are degenerative. There's a lot of ideas and ways we do things, and I guess conduct ourselves, and not having that personal integrity and those ethics, and sweeping things under the rug, and not allowing truth the light of day, and um, allowing the victim and the excuse and that part of us to become the new limelight, that it just is degenerative to our evolution. It's not like I'll say it. I have a moment at moments in my life I was in that victim mindset. I was in that, poor me. I was in that, like, excuses. Let me find reasons. Let me find blah blah. And my grandfather, his mother, when she was at school, all the kids at school died in the World War. And so she didn't want any of her kids to go to the World War, and the next World War came, and four of them went off to the World War. So like I'm sitting there going like, oh, I'm a victim. I've got excuses. I got, like, oh, this, woe is me. And I'm like, holy shit, like we can't even understand the world that people lived in 50 years ago, 60 years, and how challenging it was. And I think that quote is so powerful of, what is it, like hard times? I'm going to mess it up, but it was basically like, hard times create strong people, and easy times create weak people. And that's that whole environment,
Oh,
talking about the cat as well, like that whole environment thing. Like if you've got that
well,
environment, you
yeah.
know,
Well,
uh,
if you go into like an old folks home or physical therapy or something like that, if you do everything for that person, then for what
yeah,
purpose do they have to live, right?
mm,
They have to, as you know, my hands don't work right. I do have caregivers who help me. It is actually very important to me to do the things I can do, and sometimes
mm,
even try things that I can't do, but I'm just like I call it being stubborn in that moment, so that I can, um, just see, just so I can say I tried sometimes, and the other thing too that I wanted to get to was that when we those darn sticky notes in our life, right? Those darn sticky notes that end up in our book of life where we didn't listen to our soul's calling, so and that goes back to what you were saying, when somebody is doing something that they think is wrong, that's where one of those sticky notes goes, because they feel in their soul that they need to go another direction. My hero is the one who is like scared to death and brave as all get out, because they go, crap, I don't want another freaking sticky note in my book that says, remember that you didn't listen there. Like, and they step out, and even though they're scared, they're terrified, the courage comes up, and they become who they are supposed to be, and their purpose shines forth, they're able to then move forward. It is scary though, when in that free fall or in that unknown or the I don't know world. Don't um don't think it's not scary, because it can be absolutely terrifying when when you're not sure what's going to happen next.
Mm. And I mean,
You know,
that's another.
I was going to say, and the reality of it is, even right now, we don't know what's going to happen next, but that we have some predictability to it. But when the predictability goes away, then it's like, whoa, Nelly, I'm in trouble now.
I love all your colloquial sayings. I mean, darn, oh Nelly. I just want to say, Angela, you are one of the heroes of mine. You're a hero in my life for sure. For you know, like I think what's so powerful, and there's many people in all sorts of different situations in their life, but when you've been you're given the bread of, hey, you can be a victim here, or you can give in here, or you can go down this path of complaining and bitching and moaning and excuse making, like here it is, like here's the invite, and then you bat that hand back and you go, no, I want personal autonomy as much as I can. I want personal responsibility. I want to influence positivity. I want to make my life worth living. I want to make like an impact whilst I'm here. Yeah, I know it's going to be. I know you've got all that cushion, those soft cushions of being a victim over there for me, but I'd rather choose this, And I think that is heroic in nature. So I just want to commend you, and commend all our listeners.
Well,
Like the moments that,
Yeah, you actually, I think that when you say that about me, it's what I would say about you, and with the risks you took with, saying no to doctors. Oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine. I would have been afraid. I would have been terrified. The closest I ever came was,
I was.
yeah, and they were telling you were gonna die. Like you will die. You will die. Like with certainty, they were telling you, and then they stopped you on the way out of the hospital.
Yeah.
With certainty, the guys passed the
Gosh, you
nurses
got a good
passing
memory.
along the thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's just really. Our Facebook user says thank you, both for an engaging statement. I'll see you soon. Work beckons. Thanks
No
for
worries.
coming.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I think too, because I think we relate to maybe on a deeper level, because we both had a parent that struggled in a big way with big stuff. Where we felt like we didn't have a parent. I think for you it was your mom. For me it was my dad, and you, it just somehow there's that heart connection there. For me anyway, I feel like there's something there, and you have this desire. You put out these big cosmic goals that scared me to death, like, and now I'm putting out big cosmic goals that scare me to death, right? Like it's like we're trying to cheer each other on, and because I think we align well on what is happening. But
yeah,
I mean,
that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, like just determined to make a difference, a good difference in this world of ours. And I couldn't be more honored to be doing a show with you, a segment with you. It's beautiful.
Thank you, and likewise. And you are making a difference, and I think that's one of the big things in that. I love a lot of philosophy, right? So I really do love ancient writings and scriptures, and some ancient, like just dialogues, like dialogues with the self, that these sorts of, people, whether you look at Marcus Aurelius, who was the kingpin of the world in his time, or Epictetus, who was basically a slave, and so you've got like all these different classes, and their thoughts, and there's a lot that I'm like, wow, yeah, that truth hits me, and other things I'm like, that's interesting. So one of the things I heard the other day was like, you have to go through hell to be reborn, to to have that compassion and connection. And I was wondering that because I know people in my life who haven't necessarily gone through that. But then I questioned it again. I went, actually, I don't know what it was like for them to deal with that breakup or their sibling dying or their. And I went, wait a minute. I think most of us do go through that, and even the most protected. And he went to Ivy League schools, and he had. I mean, I know kids that had been given everything, like a BMW at school and all that sort of stuff, and then they a few years later after they left school, they're doing drugs every weekend, but they've got the whole world at their feet. They've got everything given to them, and then they're having they're choosing to create their own hell, and it's very interesting, that kind of, it's that kind of thing of like, okay, if we did have, everything right, if we were living on heaven on earth, like would, and the psychological, the analysis of, well, maybe we'd want to disturb something. Like if everything was perfect, maybe we just would want to like break a plate just to like have something to fix, or disturb something. And I definitely noticed that within me, kind of this aggregator, this kind of like to disturb the chemicals, to disturb something, to grow. Like I've got to kind of, every now and then I've got this thing inside of me that wants to kind of challenge or disturb something in my own life or in someone else's thoughts, and I've got to be careful because sometimes I'm ready to go toe to toe and challenge thoughts and see where we end up, and if we scream at each other, but if at the end of it we're like now at a new profound elevated thinking, like more power to us. But not everyone can handle that. Like, so I'm someone that a lot of people can joke with a lot of things, and I don't take offense. But then also I've got to understand, I guess this is a part of being like that hero's ethics and hero's understanding is kind of, I know I can take a lot, and I know I can, people can joke about me with anything. They can say pretty much anything, if it's a joke. But if they are actually disrespecting me, like then I'll get stern. But other people won't be able to handle the kind of the jokes or the kind of poking of the bear or those sorts of things, and so you kind of got to understand, hey, just because I can handle that, or just because I invite that in because I know it's going to change and challenge and provoke something for me. And if someone's saying, hey, Carl, you're better than this. I know you're better than this. You can do better. I'm like, thank you. Like, just because I can take that doesn't mean if I give it to someone else, they're going to receive it. And that's that compassion, reading someone else, and that sort of compassion. One thing that you said there, I really want to, there's something great that you said there earlier that I wanted to comment on, but I think it's going through the hell and those sorts of challenges that we've both been through. I think finding people to connect and communicate is the power, because we'll go away now after this interview and we'll go into our own sort of routine, our own sort of life, and thoughts will come in and out of our mind, and headlines will pop up and down of what's going on in the world and all sorts of different things. But being able to communicate, like to someone about it is powerful. And my father just sent me a message. I was chatting to him, and I found something out about copper and way back in ancient Greek times, where copper, the Greek, when they first became, because in Greece, within 50 miles of anywhere in Greece, you've got the ocean. So the ocean is always there, and the land is very rocky, and it's not great for planting. And you look at something like olive oils. Olive oils, it's such a hard, like laborious process that back in the day, if you created the olive oil farm, it wouldn't be until your grandsons did it start actually producing and blossoming. And so they had to get on ships and go around the Mediterranean. And that's when they first started discovering, these guys were seafaring people, because they got tin from Afghanistan, copper from like all sorts of areas, and that's how they kind of made it. And then on an island, there's like a certain material that is only found on that island, but it was taken to Greece, so that's how they worked it out. But anyway, long story short, the name, copper in Greece. So I was asking my dad that question, and then he's over in South Africa, so I was messaging him, and he messaged me back something about. I said, oh, tell me some more history about Cyprus. You know a lot about Cyprus, and because that's part of where I'm from, and he said something about there was just recently there was a big natural energy finding off the coast of Cyprus. And he said because of that, you've got Turkey, Greece, Russia, I think like in the Middle East, like you've got all these different sort of countries that are going to be really interested in that sort of natural energy resource, and things could boil over, and so that's very intense conversation. And so then you want to kind of, oh, well, I'd love to have someone to talk to and communicate to about this. And I think that's the value of our day and of being able to do that. But I look at my grandfather's era, and that's what they had. They had community. People, I asked my grandparents, I would ask them, like, what's different about now? And she said, well, people are living more alone than ever. People are living more, they might have everything, but they're in their apartment on their own, where people used to kind of, oh, can you mind the kids? Yeah, I'll mind the kids. Do you want to come over here? You want to go to the church? You want to go? And they had community. So now in our modern world, back then they didn't cancel people. There was no cancel culture. There was no, oh, if you say the wrong thing, you're crossed off. And I think this is something that is a real issue of modern times, is to be wary of what is the mental health of someone you could be canceling out or trying to kill digitally, and how's that going to affect them? And think of the next generation, think of the kids, think of, I chat to a 16-year-old kid, and he's telling me about, his friend posted something stupid up online, and then he got like deleted off Facebook, and, I'm terrified of whatever. And so it's a challenging time, I think, in terms of community, and that in terms of a hero or being heroic. I think we can all be more heroic if we bring more community and connection, and conversation. And that's what I loved about podcasts. Before 2020, there were 800,000. Now there's I think 2.5 million podcasts, and that was
there's a lot.
Long form conversation. People, not a little bite-sized segment where we can turn that into drama and aggression and things like that. And then maybe that will actually change the consciousness, because the reason media puts out so much controversial and shocking and things like that is because we gobble it up, because it actually works, because it gets ratings, because it's a proven system.
The emotional value. The emotional value. We're biting on to that emotional value. Now, Kyle, I'm going to stop you for a couple reasons. And I'm going to say, number one, when we were doing my family history, one day we were just clicking back all the way back. Cool. And I found Marcus Aurelius.
Wow. Yes.
And I was like, I sent it over him. And at the time didn't put, it was a long time ago. I was like, I don't know who this is, but I know it's somebody important, and my brother-in-law was super excited about it. So so somewhere way back there is Marcus Aurelius. So every time now when I read his stuff, I'm like, oh, yes, this is exciting.
That's awesome.
I don't think I'm on par. I don't think I'm on par with him, but we'll see. And then the other thing I was thinking, I don't know what you had planned for homework, but what I had been thinking about is I would like the people watching and who want or who catch the replay and do the homework later to really think about, jotting down who their hero is, all of the characteristics that their hero has. And then bring it back to us next week. Bring it back when you come to watch next week, and then we can talk about what that might mean.
Yeah, and if they feel comfortable, they can share it in the comments, and that would be awesome.
Or send it to our email, which is the destiny-of-our-souls@gmail.com.
Yes. Yeah. You are onto it. Definitely Marcus Aurelius' great granddaughter.
Great. That's what I get for doing my family history. Okay.
Yeah. So many great.
Fun stuff. There's a website where you can go and see. If you you can tie it together because the LDS Church has amazing, amazing family history stuff, but you can go
Maybe
on
this could
for
be the
free
homework
to.
too.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. You can go on
How do you do
I
it?
think is it Family Tree? Hold on, let me Family Search. Create a free account, and as long as you it's so interesting as you tie into each generation, it just gets bigger and bigger. And then there's another website I think that you can put in to see what famous people are in your family tree, and it will tell you. It's
Wow.
fascinating. I
What?
think Judy Garland and um, some other really cool people, but I remember Judy Garland because she was big in my household. So yeah.
Wow. Wait. So how do you like? What do you have to send? Like a piece of your hair? Like do you have to
No,
send
no,
your
no, no,
blood?
no,
Like,
no. You
okay.
just you get your usually. So I put it so my information and then my parents' information and my grandparents, and then pretty soon it starts to open up because it's usually
Just
past
names. Just
like
off
100 years, like names, dates of birth you find, and
Yep.
then you kind of match them up. But if they're still living, you can't match them up. And I think within so many hundreds of years or 50 to 100 years or something like that, I can't remember. But you get back far enough, you do enough, and it just starts to blossom and it really opens up. And there's some really fascinating things. If you think about it, and I know we're going to have to go in a minute, but if you think about it, we are our ancestors. We were literally made from love by all of these people in our past. And so they have injuries too. There's things like that Thomas Hubel is doing about healing past traumas, not just us, but in our ancestry
Mm,
and things like that. And that
DNA
work is
healing.
proving to
Yeah.
be, yeah, really important. So I think it is
Yes.
important that we remember our ancestors. And even the other day I was watching a documentary and they were talking about like using DNA in trees as memory or something, and then creating like these computerized you could go visit this tree that would have this computer that would have this DNA. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys, we're already part of the trees.
Yeah.
What
Over
are we
engineering.
killing off? Yeah, what are we doing now? So I just was, from dust to dust. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I mean, there's so much there and so much information and so much of what we need to know just needs to be revealed within us. Our our mental debacle of the mental tyranny, that we all experience. If we investigate more of ourselves, if we analyze, if we even do something as simple as like putting our life in categories and go, how am I doing in this area? Like what would I rate myself? Okay, why am I there? How do I, and then we can go, oh, that's why I'm feeling temperamental. That's why I'm up and down. That's why, we just analyze, like we uncover more of ourselves. But the problem is, like we invest so much time in this box, that we're viewing, and that gets all our
Yeah,
dedication. But
yeah,
that was part of the hero's journey. What I created was, hey, write your own damn hero's journey. What has happened in your life? When was your resurrection? When was your mentor? When did they come into your life? And actually make your life important. Because if you're going to actually
yeah,
impact someone else's life, you need to actually
yeah,
focus on it and make it important and go, okay, what happened here? Okay, great. And then where do I want to go? And I think it's that Steve Jobs quote of, we connect the dots by looking backwards. So don't look back to go through the trauma and feel the pain again and repeat it and like Joe Dispenza says, don't rewire and fire. You know, create new pathways, but look back at your journey so far, and then you can start to actually. That's the data. That's
yeah.
the
How
statistics.
so I'm saying write down what are the characteristics of yourself, in your hero, and you're saying look back and write your heroes, and now write it from the perspective of the hero. You're
Well,
the
match it.
hero.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
can match it. You could go like, so part of your hero's journey, like think about your life and go, okay, so like bring it to, you could talk about Marcus Aurelius, you could talk about a hero, a warrior, like, so, someone in, Joan of Arc, but think about, okay, who are the heroes close to me in my life? That's what I'd say takes the next step.
mm,
see what characteristics they have.
Sometimes it's easier to see it from a step away than to look
Yes.
at myself and figure out how I was the hero. So you're saying, look
Yeah.
at the people, look at the heroes in your life. And I'm saying, okay, so then on my side is use that and make a list of those
Yes. And then
characteristics
what
from your
characteristics
hero
you want to
story.
emulate? Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Bang
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, that reminds me of a conversation I had with my friend Christy a long time ago. I'm laying on the couch and I remember I think she was sad about something. I was sad. I was like, what if we just decided to change our story? Like, what if we just looked at it differently? And then, my friend Paul, I don't know if you know, I think you might know Paul Fortune. He actually is rewrite your story, and
Sounds
he
familiar.
always says, keep your pen.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
It's fantastic.
That's
You
powerful.
gotta love Paul. He is actually one of my heroes. I have so many heroes, you have no idea. But because everybody is my hero in my book. I can see the struggle, and I believe, it's like people say 50% of the people we meet are struggling, and I say no, 100%. They've either struggled or they are struggling, and that's all in the beginning of my podcast. And I till this day 100% agree. Like when I wrote that, I knew it was a truth, like a just an absolute truth, because we're here to learn and grow. But we are way over, and we just keep talking.
There's so many things I want to jump in there with, but yeah, exactly. We gotta.
I know. We could talk forever.
Heroes.
Well,
needed
we'll
two
save some for
episodes.
next week, right?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. I said heroes needed 2 episodes.
Yeah, right. For sure. I know. Well, maybe we'll go through it again. No.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Why not?
Okay.
I love it.
Well,
Okay.
I'm Angela.
I'm Kyle.
And this is
the
the destiny
of
your soul. We'll see you next
Awesome.
week.
See you guys.